Hello, everyone. Welcome to Instructional Design. My name is Derek Kumi. In Module 1, we studied the five well known instructional design models. In today's presentation, we will shift gears a little bit. I will talk about backward design and Bloom's taxonomy for learning objectives. So, in this presentation, you will learn the three stages of Wiggins and McTighe's understand by design framework. Also, you will learn the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And lastly, we will learn how these two frameworks play out in the referential domain, or simply put, in a classroom context. So, what is this understand by design framework? In the next slide, we will define the framework and we'll go through the stages involved in understand by design framework. All right. According to Wiggins and McTighe's 2011 book, they define understanding by design framework as a framework which offers a planning process and structure to guide curriculum, assessment, and instruction. At the heart of this understand by design framework is the coming together of theoretical research and cognitive psychology. You would wonder why I am mentioning cognitive psychology. This is because in instructional design, we learned in Module 1 that learning theories do play out too, and understand by design framework is no exception. So the understand by design framework reflects a continual improvement approach to student achievement and teacher craft. And so at the heart of this framework too is student performance. And the framework makes sure that there is enough data or enough understanding about students in order to be able to adjust curriculum as well as instruction so that student learning is maximized. In the next presentation, or in the next slide, I will talk about the 3-stage backward design process for curriculum planning. All right, stage 1 of the understand by design framework is identify desired results. This means clarifying what students should know, understand, and be able to do, and what enduring understandings you want them to leave with. In stage 1, we have 3 types of goals. The first one is transfer of learning. This is where we want students to be able to apply the concepts that they have learned in different contexts. The second goal is meaning making. They should be able to make sense of what they have learned. And the third is acquisition. So, how does stage 1 play out in my solving linear equation instruction? I want students to solve one-step and multi-step linear equations and check solutions. I want them to explain each step using the idea of equivalence. And then I want them to be able to represent and solve word problems with linear equations. In stage 2, that is determine assessment evidence. This is where we ask ourselves what counts as credible evidence that students have achieved the desired result from stage 1. Here, the teacher's role is just like an assessor. So he determines and decides how he's going to assess student performance or desired outcomes. And In stage two, we have two ways of gaining evidence of from students' performance. So the first one is performance tags and other evidence such as quizzes, multiple choice tests, and what have you. Again, in stage two, we have the 6 facets of understanding for assessment. The first one is explain, interpret, apply, perspective, empathy, and self-knowledge. I know by now you'll be scratching your head, how can I use all of these facets in one lesson? The answer is you probably can't. For example, in mathematical context, you just need 3 of them. That is explain, interpret, apply. Perhaps in social studies, you might need perspective, empathy, and self-knowledge. So it doesn't matter. So far as there is at least one of these, it means that assessment is strong. How does stage 2 play out in my solving linear equation class? So this is the stage where I want students to model a real world situation. Linear equation or algebra in general is not about pushing the x's and the y's, but it's also about being able to use these x's and y's in a real contextual setting. And so this is the stage that I want students to model this real world situation with a linear equation, solve an unknown, and justify each step using the idea of equivalence. The last stage, which is planning, learning experiences, and instruction, is where I, as a teacher, will design learning activities, teaching approaches, resources, and support that will equip students to achieve the goals and perform successfully. As we have learned in Module 1, different learning theories would demand or would indicate the type of role the teacher brings to bear in a classroom setting. So in this setting, we don't want the teacher to be a sage on the stage. We don't want the teacher to be a reservoir of all knowledge, trying to pour knowledge to the student. Rather, the teacher is a mediator, a facilitator, and a coach. How does stage 3 apply in my algebra lesson? This is where I guide learners to build and apply an understanding of equality and linear equations through sequenced modeling, scaffolded practice with feedback, and authentic problem-solving tasks aligned to the unit's assessment evidence. And this is the graphical representation of understand by design module or framework. So understand, identify desired result, determine assessment evidence, and plan learning experience and instruction. This brings us to Bloom's taxonomy, and according to Krathwohl, Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives is a framework for classifying statements of what we expect or intend students to learn as a result of instruction. In the next slide, we'll go through the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy of learning objectives. The first level is remember. This is recalling fact, terms, or steps without needing to explain them. We don't want students to explain anything. Rather, we assess students by asking them to list, identify, name, and write. The second level is understanding. So here, we want students to be able to show that they have grasped the meaning of a concept. So we ask them to show, describe, discuss, and clarify. The third level is application or apply. What did you make sense of the concepts you have learned? And so this is where we want students to use a procedure they have learned in a specific problem. We ask them to apply, solve, calculate, or classify. In the analysis level, here we want students to be able to see the bigger picture, and we want them to be able to break a concept or a problem into its constituent parts in order to see the relationships, the patterns, and also to diagnose errors. So we ask them to investigate, illustrate, explore, or examine. The fifth level, which is evaluate, after students have analyzed a problem, we want them to make a judgment of based on a certain criteria and then defending that judgment with reasons. And so we ask them to critique, verify, justify, or assess, and lastly, create. After you've been able to evaluate, you've been able to analyze, this is where we want them to produce something anew. And we ask them to design, develop, and synthesize. In the next slide, we will talk about how both frameworks play out in my algebra class. So, in my algebra class, I have my 3 stages of Understand by Design framework, that is identify desired result, assessment, and learning experiences. In this column, under the identify desired results is where I have my objectives. So the first one is solve one-step and multi-step linear equations and check solutions. The next one is explain each step using the idea of equivalence. And lastly, I want students to represent and solve word problems with linear equations. In the assessment column, this is where I use Bloom's taxonomy of learning objectives to help in assessing students' different cognitive levels based on the material, because different material or different lesson would demand different cognitive demands. So I asked students to list the steps, which is the remember stage. If you remember from Bloom's taxonomy, I want them to explain in words why subtracting 5 from both sides keep an equation true. And I want them to critique a worked solution that contains an error, identify the exact steps where it goes wrong, and justify the correction. And then I want them to compare 2 methods, one using the distributive method, and then the other is where you want to divide first. And lastly, I want them to design their own real-world problem that leads to linear equation. They write it, solve it, and explain what the solution means in a context. In the learn experiences stage, this is where I only guide because I am a teacher, but I should not be dumping knowledge to students. I am just a mediator, a facilitator, and a coach. So I guide them, and I will be employing different strategies like sequenced modeling, scaffolded practice with feedback, and problem-solving tasks that aligns with unit assessment. As can be seen, you might be wondering, okay, so can I use one of these framework ahead of the other? Can I use Understand by Design framework? Or can I just use Bloom's taxonomy? The answer is that both play out, both work in a classroom setting. You can't just single one out. So after we have gone through this presentation, these are the key takeaways. In Understanding by Design framework, we learn that it is just a planning framework and it starts with the end in mind. And so this is where we work from the back to the front, trying to see the bigger picture before you dive deeper into the constituent parts. It also prioritizes transfer, meaning making and acquisition. In Bloom's taxonomy, it is also a framework, but this time it is not for planning, rather it is for writing and leveling learning objectives. It also supports alignment by linking objectives to appropriate assessment and activities. Lastly, how do we compare both frameworks? Well, Understand by Design. In Understand by Design, that is stage 1, Bloom's taxonomy helps you write objectives at different cognitive levels. Understand by Design framework also tells us how to plan, while Bloom's taxonomy helps us phrase the goals and match them to assessment tasks. And in case you would like to dive a little bit deeper into the readings, you can check out these references. And thank you. I can't believe it's over, but of course you have my website and my email. We can connect. Just let me know if you have any questions and I'll be able and I'll be happy to answer you. Have a good one.